Hello, my dark-siding minions. Today I am going to be starting a new series which I have been planning in the works for quite some time. It's called the Villain Theory series. This will not be interrupting any other series I have ongoing, like my gameplay videos or my villain competency tier list or anything like that. This is more just like a series discussing some interesting hypotheticals revolving around our favorite villains from fiction, which of course I specialize in. That's a subject, that's really close to my heart, being an antagonist myself. So with that out of the way, let's begin with our first episode, which is what would happen if the Smile Demon ate contaminated street food. So as we all know, street food has the potential, if not properly prepared in certain countries and in certain parts of the world, to contain diseases, bacteria, viruses that generally cause ill to the human body. As we know, things like vomiting, things like dysentery, things like sweating and coughing and mucus. I mean, all sorts of disgusting things can happen if you consume street food that isn't prepared with the proper sanitary requirements and guidelines. I mean, there's entire rule books, there's entire laws, sections of laws on public health and sanitation in numerous countries to dictate that, street food vendors should prepare their food according to these guidelines, because if they don't, then they could be posing a serious health risk to the people who consume those foods. Now, nations like let's say I don't know, India, or I don't like the Chinese the place where like coronavirus started, in that bat market where they were eating bat soup, and like places throughout like the Philippines and generally country. This is not a dig, by the way, at any of those countries. I'm just gathering data. I've done a bit of research for this video, so that's all. Please, no one from those countries hate on me. I'm merely getting information from the internet and using it for this video. So that out of the way, those countries have what I would like have somewhat of a higher risk to contaminated street food, and especially since like it's not prepared in a restaurant that's overseen by other cooking staff, it's not really given as much of oversight as restaurant prepared food or food prepared in a higher end area. The risk for contamination within the human body is already high. But what would happen if the Smile Demon, the main villain from the recent set of films involving a malevolent entity called, you guessed it, the Smile Demon, the Smile Creature. It's not technically named that in universe, but I mean, that's the name that colloquially, how do you say that word? Everyone's given to it, so I'm just gonna roll with that. So what would happen if the Smile Demon, the malevolent entity behind the movies, the one responsible for driving people to suicide and feeding off the suffering of their souls, were to consume contaminated street food? So for this video, I'm going to be creating a little scenario where somehow one of the enemies of the Smile Demon outwits it through some kind of debased or strange ritual and forces the Smile Demon to adopt a corporeal form rather than having a metaphysical form haunting its victims. So for all intents and purposes, the Smile Demon is now flesh and blood living on Earth and able to physically interact with um, you know, objects and such on Earth. Like he is fallible to bullets or whatever. I mean, that he's basically just as flesh and blood as you or me. So with that out of the way, the Smile Demon, now having a physical form, realizes that it must reascend to its former state, or else it will be quickly hunted down and slain by authorities. But considering it now as a physical form, it is now subject to the basic needs that every other physical being has on this planet, including satiating its hunger. So for our video, we're going to say that the Smile Demon is located within a third world country, or a country that does not have access to as much of the sanitary resources that other nations may possess. Not to like, of course, not to like have a dig at any country or anything. I'm just saying, like, again, research and data. So the Smile Demon is now here, right? And the Smile Demon is, his tummy is rumbling. His what the fuck am I doing? His tummy is rumbling, and the Smile Demon is like, "Oh, no, I must feed." And he realizes, since he can't exactly feed on the suffering of human beings to propagate himself or itself anymore, it doesn't really have a gender, it decides to, have the nearest, most convenient option, which would be street food. There is a vendor managing a street food stall. We'll call this guy Daniel Perry. And so Daniel Perry is, handling a street food vending stall, and he's creating some unknown type of concoction, some type of fried food, or some type of like milkshake or smoothie. So just generally something you would find in an average street food vending stall. And the Smile Demon, having a ghoulish appearance, terrifies Daniel Perry into giving him giving him the food for free. He just like gets some street food for free because he's just so scary looking that the street food vendor's like, holy fuck, I don't want to mess with this guy. You just take. Would you want some food? Here, take it. Okay. So the stage is set. The Smile Demon consumes the food, unaware of the fact that it might have certain contaminants within it. So what happens next? Well, despite the fact that the Smile Demon is now corporeal and has the same desires and needs of regular physical beings do, we have no idea about its innate physiology because of the fact that it's a spiritual demon. It's more of a esoteric, ethereal entity that was never really meant to be hosted in a discussion like this. But, despite that fact, here I am fucking making this video. So the Smile Demon has just eaten some really bad, like I'm talking like nuclear level. This stuff, it has a local reputation for just being some of the worst of the worst. There's no cleanliness involved. The guy was like sticking it into his armpits and then throwing it into the pan. So this is just a really yucky piece of food that he just stuck into his mouth. What would happen? Well, assuming that the food would actually affect the Smile Demon, I think it would begin to develop certain viruses that we might not even be able to comprehend, considering that it's a demon and we cannot really fathom the intricacies of how its biological components would work. So, say it contracts cholera or dysentery. Let's go with dysentery. That's a famous example. So, dysentery typically involves someone getting a fever, getting dehydrated, vomiting, getting diarrhea, mucus going through their nose. It very heavily weakens them and puts them in a very terrible state, a very disgusting state, because they're essentially washed in their own waste and fluids, and they're powerless to do anything about that. So if the Smile Demon is put in such a situation, we could see that it would probably feel very enraged. But maybe instead of vomiting out like regurgitated food and whatever else humans vomit, it would start vomiting like congealed human souls, like the souls of people it's murdered and absorbed into its evil gestalt consciousness in the past. So maybe the Smile Demon has rented out a really shitty hotel room somewhere. There's like some obnoxious couple having sex in the really thin, I mean, because there's like really thin walls in this hotel, right? And there's like some couple going at it in the room to his left, and on his right there's some guy like screaming. He's probably a schizophrenic. He's like bashing against the windows of the hotel, and the poor Smile Demon, who just wanted to like feast on human suffering, is currently vomiting out like human souls, maybe this like ghostly red crimson soup that you can faintly see human faces in, like agonized human faces. And their spirits, their souls, they're now free of his consciousness, are beginning to float away to heaven or wherever else. So he's just like or something like that, right? I'm assuming that the vomiting noises the Smile Demon would make would be very violent and horrible, considering that it is a creature of the night. It is a dark, malevolent entity that feeds off suffering. So, of course, even when it's in pain, it would probably make really pained and agonizing noise. It would probably be like writhing on the floor. It would be like, maybe like some kind of chittering insect. It would be like hissing. It would be like rolling around. Excuse me. Maybe like it starts like getting mucus on its face, like some blood red mucus, some kind of like blood or something. It begins like shitting really hard. Whatever its version of diarrhea would be, it begins stinking up the hotel room with some like disgusting congealment, some like esoteric congealment. Because I mean, again, we don't really know how this would react to human diseases or anything. And of course, since the Smile Demon now has a corporeal form, nausea will also be a problem, along with the fact that it will be dehydrated. It will have severe malnutrition because like the only thing it ate is now being vomited onto the floor, along with the human souls that it has consumed over the years. So I'm assuming the Smile Demon would, on top of like being in an absolute shitter, be really pissed off. But first things first, self-preservation. So maybe the Smile Demon goes to like a local hospital, and of course, the hospital's not the best. It's a bit shady, and it's in a sketchy part of town. There's some like there's some burly gangsters just looking over at the Smile Demon. They think he's just some guy in a really weird Halloween costume. But after seeing him like throw up congealed human souls onto the sidewalk, they're like, "Oh shit, we're not gonna mess with this guy," and they just scatter. right? So the smile demon goes to the hospital, he checks in, and the doctor, for the sake of the story, we'll call the doctor Dr. Apish Moog. And Dr. Moog is like, Bro, bro, you are in big trouble, bro. Big trouble, big trouble. You eat really bad food. And the smile demon has no idea what the fuck is going on. You know, his vision is blurry. This like weird doctor is like screaming in his ear that he had contaminated street food. He has dysentery. And once he does a CT scan of the smile demon, it finds out that there's actually tapeworms in him because you know what? Another symptom of dysentery, tapeworms. And generally, another consequence of eating contaminated street food is that bacteria, such as tapeworms, will grow inside your body and begin feeding on you. And you know, since they're feeding on you and on your proteins, it means that you have less energy for yourself. And also, since it's a parasite, tapeworms are parasites. It's slowly whittling away your strength and capability to do practically anything. So the smile demon is in a really bad position right now. The doctor has no idea what to do, right? Because the doctor is trained as a medical professional to work on humans, not malevolent, evil devil entities from the depths of hell. So, Smile, and he does all he can for the Smile Demon. He prescribes him some medicines, but ultimately he has to discharge him from the hospital. And so now the Smile Demon is just wandering the streets, a forlorn shadow of his former self. His old glory has been washed away in this horribly embarrassing situation. He's still dealing with like cramps and abdominal pains and dehydration. And so he like maybe now the Smile Demon is beginning to recognize just an iota of the suffering he puts others through. And he's like, man, this shit sucks. If I ever get out of this, I'm not going to bring suffering to anyone ever again. Of course, that's very highly unlikely. What he'd more likely be thinking is that he's really pissed off and he wants to get revenge on Daniel Perry and the street food vendor gang. So what he does now is the Smile Demon goes over and he probably returns either to his hotel room or maybe the diarrhea's gotten so bad he just comes to like a local river filled with trash and other contaminants and he just like lies there surrounded by like other homeless people. Um, and there's nearby a homeless guy or some kind of street vagrant of some kind. He's just like very bushy, very dirty. You can see that like even like the Smile Demon can tell that this guy has been on the streets. He's a seasoned vagrant. He's been around these parts for quite a long time. He knows what it is to live without a roof over his head. Like even in the Smile Demon's prime, there would probably not be much he could attack this person with because even his trauma doesn't really seem to affect him anymore. He just seems like he's completely done with life. His eyes are glazed over. So the Smile Demon is like currently vomiting and shitting, and then this guy is like, "Hey, you look like you're in a bad situation. You look like you've eaten some of Daniel Perry's food, have you?" Yeah, Daniel Perry. That motherfucker's been selling contaminated street food for the past 20 years. You must be new around this town if you don't know that. He only preys on tourists and those unaware of his lack of sanitation for that matter. My name is, and you know, he says his name for the purposes of this hypothetical. We'll say his name um, is Pachycephalosaurus. So Pachycephalosaurus says, you know, I can help you. And the Smile Demon is like, help? How can you help me? And so he offers him bottle filled with he offers him a bottle with like some like a strange pill bottle. And you know, the Smile Demon opens it and like a few pills come out, like 2 to 3 pills. They're like weird orange colored. They kind of look like the candies, like you know, these those I forget their name, but there are these candies you can get in these small plastic rectangular boxes. You guys know what I'm talking about. They taste really good, and you know so it just looks like those basically. And he plops a few into his mouth, and suddenly like all the terrible feelings of the street food that he just consumed are being washed away, like the tapeworms and everything. He's forgetting about the fact that he's basically just a walking mucus-ridden mess. Instead, he's like feeling ecstasy because that's really what he just took, ecstasy. This guy just gave the Smile Demon drugs. So now, in this drug-addled, euphoric state, where like the entire world seems to have become like this floating magical realm. There's like unicorns and ponies and like puppies with wings flying around, vomiting rainbows, and the Smile Demon just doesn't know what to make of it. So he just like fucking crashes out. He's like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" And he just like fucking wanders around the city. He just rampages around the city, fucking flailing his arms around stampeding everywhere. Still throwing up, by the way, because it's not like the street food side effects have like worn off by now. And maybe he even runs into Daniel Perry, who's still like in operation, still in business because the local government authorities are too corrupt to shut him down, or maybe he pays them off or something. Maybe he has blackmail on a local politician, whatever the case. And he doesn't even recognize Daniel Perry, but he just accidentally like bashes him against the wall with such force that his head just splits open like a fucking melon, and it just causes everyone nearby to just run in fear. And Pachycephalosaurus just smiles at the craziness that he just created. Meanwhile, the Smile Demon, and the next morning, he's slowly reeling from his drug-addled hangover. Slowly but surely, the dysentery is wearing off. He's found a local well in a nearby village, and he's just dunked himself inside that well and is just feeding off the more let's say clear water. I mean, because some village wells have really contaminated water too, but for the purposes of the story, we'll say that the well actually has some very clear crystal water. And so the Smile Demon is now slowly recovering. And so now recovered, the Smile Demon will likely try to find a way to return back to his metaphysical spiritual form and of course get more ecstasy because throughout his journey he has now discovered both the terrors of eating contaminated street food and the joys of ecstasy. So now the Smile Demon's ultimate goal would likely shift to, I mean, he would still be this like malevolent evil spiritual entity, but I think that now after all these experiences he's just endured, he would try and like seek ecstasy. He would try to seek a more balanced lifestyle. Yes, still bringing suffering and misery to people by evoking their worst fears and traumas and nightmares and terrifying them with them, but he would also simultaneously be seeking, maybe he would actually start a food safety commission in the country that he's currently trapped in. Maybe while he tries to return to his spiritual form, the Smile Demon becomes the head of a food safety organization which strives to ensure better sanitation quality for all street food sold by vendors in the immediate area. Maybe he does this through like inviting third party observers to watch the vendors at work, establishing better sanitation conditions and cleaner roads so that when they're working, the bacteria from, like, say, a dirty road doesn't transfer its essence over to the food. Also, food preparation will be done with gloves and utensils, and it would probably not just be done by, like, stuffing things up your armpit and, like, destroying it with your bare hands and everything. And also, food vendors must have a status of personal hygiene and cleanliness before they are approved to be working on food. Maybe this hypothetical commission would be called the Smiling Happiness Food Safety Organization. The what would the acronym for that be? Smiling Happiness Food Safety SHFSO. Okay, the SHIFO. The SHIFO would be like a very powerful organization in the realm of food sanitation. And maybe the Smile Demon would eventually even forget about his current campaign of causing misery to people through the evoking of traumas, and maybe he would be more focused on informing people of the dangers of uncontaminated street food and unsanitary practices. And maybe it would even evolve from street food to generally workplace restaurants that are selling, food without much preparation in the hygienic department and stuff like that. Maybe we don't really know. I mean, it could go anywhere. I'm sure the Smile Demon would endemically still continue to try and bring suffering to the world, but he would also like be pursuing SHFSO really seriously. And maybe instead of just dealing with people trying to escape his evil grasp because he's trying to get them to kill themselves and transfer his curse onto other people, now he would also be an enemy of local bureaucrats and corrupt politicians that have investitures and not seeing the sanitary practices change because they have a lot of money and keeping things the way they are for whatever reason. So he would have to cut through a lot of red tape. He would have to sign forms, documents. He would have to hire staff, get a bunch of people on board with his mission. I mean, it would be a lot. He'd have to even like buy his own headquarters and stuff. So that is my villain theory video on what if a Smile Demon ate contaminated street food. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Uh, I had a lot of fun making this, so I really hope you guys enjoyed watching and listening to me as always. If you guys like this, I will be sure to make more of these in the future. Stay tuned for the rest of my Dark Lord reaction to the TV Tropes Evil Overlord list, more gameplay videos, and more reaction videos coming to you in the near future. As always, Darksiders, I am always watching, and I am so happy with the views we're getting on my shorts and everything, and I'm just really I'm really appreciative for everything you guys are doing for me and what you guys will continue to do for me in the future. So, with that out of the way, thank you all so much, Darksiders, and have a great one. Peace.